another session on the Fun They Had lesson, which is written by Isaac Asimov. Well, in our previous video, we have seen about a short introduction of the story and about the author. So, we will begin a second session on this chapter where we will be discussing, we will be talking in detail about the lesson. Let's begin the reading and explanation part. So, let's get started.
Margie even wrote about it that night in her diary. On the page headed 17th May 2157, she wrote, "Today Tommy found a real book. It was a very old book. Margie's grandfather once said that when he was a little boy, his grandfather told him that there was a time when all stories were printed on paper. They turned the pages which were yellow and crinkly. Crinkly means with many folds or lines. And it was awfully funny to read words that stood still instead of moving the way they were supposed to. On a screen, and then when they turned back to the page before, it had the same words on it that it had when they read it the first time." "Gee," said Tommy, "what a waste. When you are through with the book, you just throw it away. I guess our television screen must have had 1,000,000 books on it, and it's good for plenty more. I wouldn't throw it away." Yes, Margie, a 11-year-old girl, sits down to write her diary on 17th May 2157. Now this time is in future. On that day, she wrote in her diary that Tommy had found a real book. And why is she so surprised about the real book? Because it was an old book. In her times, there were no real books. There was only e-books or virtual books. Margie remembered her grandfather's telling her that her grandfather, when he was a little boy, used to read all the stories which were printed on paper. Book looked very funny to Margie and Tommy because its papers were yellow and crinkly. That is, it had many folds and it was funny looking for them because here the words were not moving, unlike virtual books on the screen. When you move the screen, the words also move. But on printed pages or books doesn't happen that way. So both of them find such a book very funny. And then Tommy told that it was a waste because when you are through with the book, you just throw it away. Where on the other hand, TV, that is television screen, where on the screen have millions of books on it permanently. You can have many more than that. And of course, one would not throw it away. "Same with mine," said Margie. She was 11 and hadn't seen as many telebooks as Tommy had. Telebooks are the books available on television screen. He was 13. She said, "Where did you find it?" "In my house." He pointed out without looking because he was busy reading. "In the attic." Attic means a space just below the roof used as a storeroom. "What's it about?" "School." Margie was scornful, which means unimportant. "School? What's there to write about school? I hate school." Margie always hated school, but now she hated it more than ever. The mechanical teacher had been giving her test after test in geography, and she had been doing worse and worse until her mother had shaken her head sorrowfully and sent for the county inspector. So, county inspector is a person who inspects the machine and repairs the fault. Margie agreed with Tommy's opinion. Margie was only of 11 years of age and she had not read as many books as Tommy had because Tommy was older to Margie, who was 13 years of age. Margie asked Tommy where he had found the printed book. Tommy replied to Margie that he had found it in the storeroom of his house. After that, he got busy reading the book. When Margie asked what the book was about, Tommy replied that it was about school. Margie always hated school. But why did she hate her school? Because Margie's school was not the kind of school that we all have. Margie's school is a virtual classroom, and instead of having a proper human being as a teacher, she had a mechanical teacher. A mechanical teacher means the machine that teaches you, not that school where we all go. And this mechanical teacher had been giving her test after test in geography, which she hadn't been doing well in it. Unfortunately, her mother thought that there was something wrong with the machine. So she called the county inspector to check it. County inspector is the person who inspects the machine and rectifies or repairs the fault. He was a round little man with a red face and a whole box of tools with dials and wires. He smiled at Margie and gave her an apple, then took the teacher apart. Margie had hoped he wouldn't know how to put it together again, but he knew how all right, and after an hour or so, there it was again, large and black and ugly, with a big screen on which all the lessons were shown and the questions were asked. That wasn't so bad. The part Margie hated most was the slot where she had to put homework and test papers. She always had to write them out in a punch code. Punch code means a code for machine operated by a keyboard for coding information by punching holes in cards or paper tape in specified pattern. Made her learn when she was 6 years old, and the mechanical teacher calculated the marks in no time. Now there came a county inspector. He was a fat man with a red face, and he had come there with a box of tools and wires. He smiled at Margie and he gave her an apple to eat. But Margie hoped that this man would knew nothing to her how to repair it. But this man was an intelligent person, and right after an hour he had repaired the mechanical teacher, and now this time large, black and ugly with a big screen is a description of that mechanical teacher, the machine, who used to teach Margie, on which lessons were shown and the questions were asked. The most hated part of Margie about mechanical teacher was the slot, and a slot is a place where she had to put her homework and test papers, and she had to write them out in a punch code or in a code language which was taught to her when she was 6 years old. And this mechanical teacher, since it was a machine or a robot, it used to calculate the marks in no time and give her the result. The inspector had smiled after he was finished and patted Margie's head. He said to her mother, "It's not the little girl's fault, Mrs. Johns. I think the geography sector was geared a little too quick. Those things happen sometime. I have slowed it up to an average 10 years level. Actually, the overall pattern of her progress is quite satisfactory." And he patted Margie's head again. Margie was disappointed. She had been hoping they would take the teacher away altogether. They had once taken Tommy's teacher away for nearly a month because the history sector had blanked out completely. Once the inspector finished his work, he told Margie's mother that it wasn't Margie's fault. Actually, the machine itself had gone up to one level higher, and now he has slowed it to one level lower, so that it will match an average 10 years level And actually, Margie's overall pattern of progress was very satisfactory. But Margie was sad because she did not want to learn, she did not want to study from this machine, and she wanted that the inspector should take it away. And Margie was reminded of the time when Tommy's mechanical teacher had been taken away for repair for almost 1 month, and he was enjoying his time. As he didn't have any teacher, it had been taken away because the history portion of the machine had been completely blanked. So the mechanical teacher did not have any memory of it and had to be taken away for repair. So she said to Tommy, "Why would anyone write about school?" Tommy looked at her with very superior eyes. "Because it's not our kind of school, stupid. This is the old kind of school that they had hundreds and hundreds of years ago." He added loftily. Loftily means in a superior way, pronouncing the word carefully. "Centuries ago." Margie was hurt. "Well, I don't know what kind of school they had all that time ago." She read the book over his shoulder for a while. Then said, "Anyway, they had a teacher." Now we know the reason why Margie disliked her school. So she asked Tommy, "Why would anyone write about school?" Tommy was looking at Margie with superior eyes because he knew something that Margie was not aware of. He said Margie was a silly girl because she did not know many years ago the school was not the kind they had. Tommy wanted to stress on the time period, and he said that centuries ago the school were not like ones they had. Margie was hurt by Tommy's behavior, and she said that she did not know what kind of schools they had centuries ago. She was curious, and so she looked over Tommy's shoulders, trying to read the book, and said, "Perhaps they had a teacher." And of course, she was curious, and she imagined a group of children being taught by a human teacher. Sure, they had a teacher, but it wasn't a regular teacher. Regular here means normal of the usual kind. It was a man. A man? How could a man be a teacher? Well, he just told the boys and girls things and gave them homework and asked them questions. A man isn't smart enough. Sure, he is. My father knows as much as my teacher. He knows almost as much. I bet means I bet you in fast speech. Margie wasn't prepared to dispute that. She said, "I wouldn't want a strange man in my house to teach me." Tommy screamed with laughter. "You don't know much, Margie. The teacher didn't live in the house. They had a special building and all the kids went there. All the kids learned the same thing. Sure, if they were the same age. But my mother says a teacher has to be adjusted to fit the mind of each boy and girl it teaches, and that each kid has to be taught differently." When Tommy says about a regular teacher, here he means machine teacher, because that is what they are used to. That is the teacher they had, a machine. So he said that it wasn't the machine, it was a man or a human being who taught them. And Margie could not believe that the man was a teacher because she always seen a machine doing that. So Tommy tells her that the man who taught the class discussed many things with the students, gave them homework, and asked them questions, different questions based on it, just like their mechanical teacher does. Margie said that man teacher is not as smart as a machine teacher. But Tommy doesn't agree. He asked Margie not to underestimate the human teacher. And he says that human beings are also as knowledgeable as machine. And he compares the machine to his father and says that his father knows as much as his machine. Teacher Margie did not want to discuss it further. So she added that she did not want a strange man or a human teacher come to her house to teach her. But Tommy found it very funny and he told her that the teacher never visited or went to students' house to teach them. They had a special building and instead students went to the school to study. Margie was surprised. Tommy said that all children of same age studied the same thing. Margie refers to a machine teacher and said that her mother told her that the machine had to be tuned the level of each boy or girl who was studying from it. So each child had to be taught separately depending on their level. Just the same, they didn't do it that way then. If you don't like it, you don't have to read the book. I didn't say I didn't like it, Margie said quickly. She wanted to read about those funny schools. They weren't even half finished when Margie's mother called. Margie, school. Margie looked up. Not at Mama. Now, said Mrs. John. And it's probably time for Tommy too. Margie said to Tommy, can I read the book some more with you after school? Maybe, he said nonchalantly. Nonchalantly means not showing more interest or enthusiasm or carelessly. He walked away whistling the dusty old book tucked beneath his arm. Tommy replied to Margie that back then the things were very different. But by now he was really irritated with Margie's questions and he told her that if she didn't like the book, she should not read it. On the other hand, Margie was very curious about those funny schools and she wanted to read more about. But then it was her school time and her mother called her. Margie requested Tommy if she can read the book after her school. Tommy replied, maybe she could, and then he walked away with the book under his arm. Margie went into the schoolroom. It was right next to her bedroom, and the mechanical teacher was on and waiting for her. It was always on at the same time every day except Saturday and Sunday, because her mother said little girls learn better if they learn at regular hours. Margie's schoolroom was next to her bedroom in her own house. There she had this robot mechanical teacher which was right there waiting for her. It was the usual time or the regular time every day except Saturday and Sunday. These 2 days used to be holiday for her because her mother told her if she learns at regular hours of study, then the little girl learned better in that way. The screen was lit up and it said, today's arithmetic lesson is on the addition of proper fractions. Please insert yesterday's homework in the proper slot. Slot means a given proper space. Margie did so with a sigh. Sigh means a heavy breath. She was thinking about the old schools they had when her grandfather's grandfather was a little boy. All the kids from the whole neighborhood came, laughing and shouting in the schoolyard, sitting together in the school room, going home together at the end of the day. They learned the same things so they could help one another with the homework and talk about it. And the teachers were people. the mechanical teacher was flashing on the screen. When we add fractions, half and Margie was thinking about how the kids must have loved it in the old days. She was thinking about the fun they had. The mechanical teacher's screen was lit up and there was information there. That is, the arithmetic lessons, addition of proper fraction, and it requested Margie to insert the previous day's homework in the proper slot. Margie was not happy, but now at this point of time, Margie started to compare her school with the old school, which her grandfather's grandfather attended when he was a little boy. Right now, she was sitting alone in her school room, and the teacher she had was a mechanical teacher, a machine. But in the olden times, all the kids from the whole neighborhood together went laughing and shouting to the school. They played in the school yard. They sat together in the school classroom, and while going home also they went together. What fun they must have had! They learnt the same things so they could help one another with the homework and also discuss the same topics, and back then teachers were people. They had sentiments, they had emotions, they could understand the students. But here in Margie's time, the teacher was a machine which was only flashing things on the screen. Margie was thinking that how those kids must have loved in the olden days. They must have loved going to school. They must have attached to their teachers. Margie thought how much fun they had during their time. They must have really enjoyed their school life.
So, till the end, we come to know that Margie must have felt children in the past must have enjoyed their schools. They had the fun, then she has it. So, the title, The Fun They Had, talks about the children in the past who could go to school, who could enjoy their classrooms, teachings, and learn the things physically, which definitely would give them a best childhood.
So, what's the moral of the story? Very simple. Enjoy the company of your friends, enjoy the teaching of your teachers, enjoy your schooling, because we never know what future holds for our kids and for the next generation.
That's all in this session. Coming up next are the question answers as well as the exercise grammar given in the book. So wait for the next video. Till then, take a very good care of yourself. Bye bye.